Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Nima podcast where I interview artists and creatives about their worldviews and stories. This is our first in-person podcast, so I'm excited to be joined by David Hanley, who goes by an artist named DaHexd. He is a visual artist and an abstract figurative painter who resides in Manchester. Welcome to the podcast, man. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's been a long overdue.
Yeah, man.
Spoke about this for quite a while now.
Yeah. Can you give us an introduction on sort of how you got into art and creativity in the first place, and how you started with your creative exploration?
Yeah, so as a person, I'm very interested in what makes people tick in their stories and my stories, and I want to try and find a root for why I create, why am I the person I am, and why people act in a certain way. So that's kind of the fundamental values of why I create art and what I want to explore in my art. How I do that is usually by locking myself in a studio. Lots of canvas, lots of paint, lots of books and lots of stimulus on and that just kind of gives me the materials to be able to explore what I want to explore. Usually it's quite neurotic themes. And then what I create is like you said, it's figurative abstract painting that explores these types of themes. Explores quite dark themes. However, I think it's very important that people do explore those, and I think that's where proper art comes from. And I think everyone should look at themselves in the mirror and go, "What am I trying to create?"
I couldn't agree more. So where do you think your themes come from? Why the dark themes that you've chosen? I know you say you want to understand what makes people tick, but where did that even come from?
Well, growing up, I was in like a working class family, just a standard state school. But then there's people who are around me who, on the surface, had the same upbringing, but would react to things in very different ways to how I'd react to it. It's more aggressive or go a lot more isolated in themselves. And from a young age, I was quite aware of that. I mean, even personally myself, I was quite aware of who I was. Like looking myself in the mirror, like, I'm David. What is actually going on? I've always had that self-realization. And then as you get older, from like your teenage years, you're 16 to 18, I always thought that was the most important time of your life. When I was like 18, seeing people branch off into different directions. And then 18 to 20, I turned 20, I was like, 18 to 20 is your most important, that's your turning point. And every, say, 2 years, I get a new realization, like, oh, well, those were the 2 most important years of my life. And seeing people around me act in different ways, do different things, go on different career paths, it excites me. Like, what is actually making them tick? What makes them who they are? It's quite a big question to try and answer.
Sure, no, you've done a good job. So it's like a natural psychologist. I relate with that.
Yeah, when you think, there's like young Freud, and then hundreds of other psychologists spend their life trying to make sense of actually what's going on. So I'm not going to be a mastermind like that. On no sense. However, I think just taking in their stimulus and their idea of the world and put it into my own work of usually traumatic experiences or happy experiences or social injustice or different areas of my artwork. That's what I want to explore, and I think that's meaningful. I think that's what people should look at. Like, there's so much going on in the world. Like, people should care about themselves and circle around them.
For sure. No, that's I relate with a lot of the story, to be honest. And even though you say like you can't be mastered like a psychologist, I think as an artist, like, we do serve a good role in society, where it's like a social commentary almost. Like, you just observe what's around you and you create whatever you can. And it's quite authentic way of understanding the world. It's just like observation and then creation. So very direct experience. But like, when did you start creating art? Like, were you creative as a kid?
I'll be very frank and honest there. As a kid, I didn't think I was like the most creative. I knew I was quite hyperactive in a way. Like, I always wanted stimulus. I always wanted like the next thing. I always wanted to be the best at something. I was like more of a competitive nature, I think, in what I wanted to do. But as I grew, maybe like 12, 13, I'd always enjoyed art, but 12, 13 is when I started doing drawings and doodles and like these really progressive, like, abstract drawings where it's just line work, but then everything flowed together, and eventually you see faces and grow. And then the graffiti scene came on board when I was about 14, and that's when I started selling like logos to companies and things like that. But from like the age of like 16 to 18, I was in college, but I was known as the ADD kid. I had a million and one ideas. Execution wasn't always there.
Yeah.
And I understand that the teachers were trying to like lead me down to like they had a curriculum, like this is what you need to do to pass. However, I had so many ideas of what I wanted to create. It didn't work too well, and then a lot of personal stuff in my life. It all got a bit out of sync for quite a few years. And then by the time I was just turned 21, I believe, that's when I was like, I'm going to do DaHexd. I'm back in the UK. This is what I'm going to do.
Nice.
Try to stop me.
Commitment.
Yeah.
Love that.
Like, yeah, I swore an oath to myself, like, this is what you want to make of yourself. Go do it. No one else is going to do it for you.
Nice.
So that's been my journey for the last 4 years now.
Nice.
I've just turned 25.
Nice. Yeah, taking ownership. I like it. So, I mean, you talk about mental health a lot. Like through your art, and I was like scanning your website. I feel like themes of your work explore mental health and sort of transmuting emotions or experiences into art. What does that process look like for you? Like, what is the process of taking a mental state or emotion and actually creating a piece from it? What is your artistic process?
I think one of the key catalysts for me creating artwork from like just my mind, then actually creating paintings, I think it's actually just having an art studio. I know that's quite a basic answer, but having a space where I can go and sit and think. I could go in a studio for 4 days and not create anything. However, I'm self-reflecting and trying to research like different theories or something that I have, or I've heard something like I want to delve into that a bit deeper, or why did I react in this certain way to something so minuscule to someone else, but it was a big deal to me. And I think being very self-aware and self-conscious and very, holding myself accountable for certain things that I do and trying to understand it, and then taking that to canvas, it kind of just seems into itself. Because my artworks are quite aggressive and abstract, it just kind of falls onto it. My paintings could have like 5, 6, sometimes 10 other paintings underneath it until I find a composition where I'm there like, that is now balanced. Right, that is now a balanced painting. Move on to the next. So I could be working on 10, just finding colour palettes, and they're like, right, okay, that's me. Just calm down for a bit. Let's try and re-execute and try and work at something again.
Nice. So just having the environment there is very crucial.
Yeah, 100%.
And then the rest sort of just flows once the tools are there and the environment is there, and the space for you to reflect or create.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've got to be able to have it there to actually execute. And it's the thing that I say is art for me isn't about mastering the mind. It's about art for me isn't about mastering a technique. It's about mastering your mind. And I think that's very important. If your artwork's not thought-provoking to yourself, and it's not in some way self-indulgent, part of your ego, like I need to explore this and people need to talk about this, then why is anyone else going to look at it and go, oh, I should actually think about that. Why did I react in that way? Or just making people self-aware. I think people should be holding themselves accountable a lot more for who they are.
No, I like that. Yeah, and I've noticed that too within my own works recently. It's like if the emotion or the idea that I'm exploring really hits true to home for me, then it becomes a better artwork.
Yeah,
like the product is just better if it's like I can really feel it. Sometimes I just make stuff that looks pretty.
Yeah,
and it's still cool.
Yeah,
but then sometimes I have like if I have a really like deep idea or like it sort of resonates with me deeply, and then I create it. It just transforms to like another level,
different level, and you might not even do it the first time, but it might be a theme you keep going back to until you're there. Like, yeah. And if it's a really deep meaning, like you're gonna do one piece, and then next second, you're like, oh, this has opened a different layer. Sure. It's just you kind of get into the loop and the cycle. But hopefully one day it's right, I can close that book. But
it feeds itself until it's done.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
That's a nice one. Where do your inspirations come from? Or also, like, who have been your biggest influence, or who are or have been your biggest influences?
So I always say, influence-wise, and like people I've like looked up to and idolized as 2 key people. First person is my cousin. No one's going to know him, but he was a DJ he is a DJ in Australia. He's 10 years older than me or something, but he came over to England when I was very young, when he was only about 20, 21 at the time, and he was really passionate about his music. He loved it, he loved everything he did about it. We've always kind of stayed close. And then when I lived in Australia, I was living on his floor for a bit, and he was looking after me, and he really helped me grow from like David to like a man. Like, he really helped me like transition to be a person, hold yourself accountable for things. If you want something, work out how you're going to get it. Nothing's going to be given for you. He gave me some hard truths in life, and he's given me a lot of life lessons. So for that, as a person, he's kind of my person who I've always looked up to and kind of idolised in that way. From a more creative point of view, there's a guy called Reeps One. He's a beatboxer, and he's heavily developed that from creating visuals from sound waves to now creating these massive voice gem digital sculptures from his voice. He travels around the world now, doing TED Talks about what he does. It's absolutely amazing seeing him grow from a London kid beatboxing in a stairwell to, basically conquering the world with this new revolutionary idea. And he's been a great mentor for me over the years as well, because I've been able to talk to him quite a few times. He's looked out for me in a few different projects and given me direction in how I should be able to execute in my next stage. So those two quite different ways they've influenced me, but they've kind of grown me into the person that I am creatively and personally. So I have a lot of respect for both of them.
Nice. Apart from people, that's cool. What else would you say inspires you to like actually sparks an idea?
People. Yeah. Like, I know that's a quite generic answer, but
no, I get it.
I think people are so complex in every single walk of life, and just watching how people operate in different social situations, or how they treat themselves, or even if you go into how people, how to word this, people get like external factors that affect them, and people have internal factors who affect them. And people who are only getting like external stimulus and that makes them feel good, it's like, well, what's actually going in your head? Why are you needing all this extra? Why can't you just sit in a room and just be like, take a deep breath and be like, right, okay, I'm content with where I am, or I'm not content, but this is the steps I need to do. It's because I found myself a lot now really just isolate myself and going, right, breathe, sit in the silence. I don't need music now to make me feel happy. I just need to be silent. What do I need to execute? How am I going to do it? What is the next stage? And it's kind of getting that discipline within yourself, and seeing people go on that journey of like, from I'm just going to go get smashed every weekend for a few years as a 20-year-old, like everyone really has, to then transition into like, oh no, I've got an idea, I've got a project, to then seeing them actually try and execute it. It's like, it's the most heartwarming thing ever, like seeing my people around me, friends, people like yourself as well, who just like taking the next step, growing themselves. It's just like, I'll support you through anything. So I think that's where inspiration comes from as well, just seeing people's life stories develop, hopefully seeing my own life story develop, and hopefully influencing people to take that next step in their creative journey, and their own personal journey as well.
Nice. I love that, man.
Yeah.
I feel like you have like quite a meditative point of view in a way. I don't know if that's the best word for it, but it's like quite observant, trying to figure out how things work, but it's also like focused on your own peace in a way. Do you meditate or like? Yeah.
People always ask me this. I've tried it, but I should probably try harder. But it goes back to that thing, because I have my studio, I can go there. It's just like an extension of my head, and that's where I can just say that's your meditation. That's my peace right there. Yeah. When anything's going wrong in the world, I can just go to the studio, turn my phone off, and bam, I have my space. I have my world. So that's why I think as a creative, if you can get your own space, I think you'll do incredible things for like you, just for you personally.
That's great. Yeah, that's something I haven't actually paid that much attention to, like the physical space and the environment itself. But it definitely does make such a big difference, because you do become product of your environment, and certain environments sort of what's the best way to put it? They bring out something from you. So yeah, I guess if you curate the right environment, you can curate the right products or outcomes.
Yeah, you're just kind of working in harmony.
Yeah.
With yourself and then your external factors as well. I think that's I think it's just key. I think like younger artists that are coming through, I get messages in my inbox. It's like, I really like that you've done this. Like, I'm trying to do the next stage forward. Or if you've got your uni art studio or whatever, I'm like, make that your space, make that your zen. Don't conflict too many people into it. Just have your space, and you'll find yourself being willing to execute a lot more and just being a lot more content in who you are. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I think so too. Have there been, like, what have been like some big milestones for you in your creative journey? What has been the biggest, let's say, whether it's a stage of your artistic career or let's say a particular piece that you made that it helped you a lot in processing something, or it just felt like a going to the next level?
Yeah. I wouldn't say my favourite piece, because I don't really have a favourite, but I think the piece that has the most impact on myself, and as I keep looking at it more and exploring it, it just kind of keeps coming back to me. And that painting's The Steps of Self-Destruction. So it looks quite colourful. It's again quite aggressive, like these four figures that are all combined, like, kind of swaying back and forth through the piece. But then you do look darker into it, and it's, it is the steps of self-destruction. So it's you inside of your head. So it's just you being the prominent figure at the front. It's just you being you. And then as it slowly trickles back, it's getting more and more destructive, more and more destructive. It's just you inside of your head. Everyone's got that little voice in their head that sometimes takes things too far. It takes you down a path or a memory that you don't want to go to.
Yep.
And then you can very quickly spiral to your whole body just kind of being overtaken with depression or these negative emotions that are going to affect everything in your life. But the way it works is a prominent figure, and it can, as you look back, and you can kind of come back and forth. That's the beautiful thing about it, is because you can be at a really bad stage in your life, and then you can think your way out of it. Where you can put external factors in place. That means you can go back to just being you and being content. So it's just like a consistent journey. It's back and forth, like a grandfather clock, like time. Swing it from back and forth, from good to bad, and it's just you, and you overall do have control of your emotions, and I think you should have the best grasp of it possible to become the best person possible, not just for yourself but for other people as well. So that's the piece for me where I'm saying something here, and I'm really proud of that piece. I'm ready to say, like, that is the DaHexd piece. I think that is my one piece currently where I'm like, that is like, all my pieces mean a lot, but that's one that, like, I just can't stop going back to. I've had offers to sell it, and I'm just not ready yet to. I'm just not ready yet to let go of it.
Yeah. How did it feel to make that piece, like, as you were going through?
That took, I'd say, probably about 9 months. Like I said, there's a lot of paintings underneath each painting, but as the figures started to form themselves, and then it's like the steps of self-destruction, like that motive for the work, like that capture, that saying, kind of took hold of the work, and I started developing it. It got more and more aggressive, and I was there like, yeah. I've had paintings before where they've ended up being really nice, and I've really quite enjoyed making them, but some of them I don't want to say get them to walk, that might be a bit of an over exaggeration, but it's quite mentally tormenting to go through, and I think it was nice to see it finish, and it's nice to see, like, people enjoying the piece for what it is, and also wanting to indulge themselves into the piece as well, because, like I say, we all have that internal dialogue, and I feel like everyone can kind of relate to the internal demons at times.
Yeah, sure. And yeah, I mean, I was having this conversation with a friend yesterday, actually, about showing darkness in art, like dark emotions, and how societally it's sort of not cool to talk about those things. It's not cool to talk about depression. Like, it's sort of, people call me a Debbie Downer or whatever. Or it's just like, talking about vulnerable, deep things is sort of societally uncool. But then almost everyone goes back home and then they have to deal with those emotions. And then people wonder like why it's so hard to deal with those emotions, or how there's not enough support, how like mental health is really bad globally. But then at the same time, it's again the act like it's uncool to talk about it, or like when someone talks about it, I don't know, there's like a lot of resistance sometimes. But yeah, I think it is really important to explore those parts. Like obviously, like it's something we all deal with. So if someone, I think it's a matter of courage too. Like if you have the courage to face those parts and then create something from those parts and then share it. Yeah. Because sharing is also takes courage. It's like you're showing your insides. Yeah. It's like quite a vulnerable feeling. Yeah. But I think that's the courage that we do need. Like people and artists showing those dark emotions that maybe most people will be too afraid. Yeah. To explore themselves. So yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like when it comes to art, I think like you need to be able to talk about those things. Like where else can you really do it? Like it's like, and for me now, like I've been through a lot for the last like 5-6 years, not even longer, probably like 10 years now. And now I'm just at a stage where I'm like, the amount of conversations that I have about art, or just in a personal settings where people are going through stuff, I'm like, even if someone doesn't like the art, I'm like, I know that it's thought-provoking for me, and I'm still going to put it out there. Sure. Like, I think this is saying something. You might agree, you might not agree. However, whether you agree or not agree, you're still having an emotion towards it. So if you really hate it, well, there's a reason why you hate it. So ask yourself that why. If you love it, ask yourself why. Like it's just observe it. If you don't like it, that's fine. However, it's I think people are in control of their emotions a lot more, or not in. Don't believe they're in control of emotions as much as they are, and I think people just need to take ownership. And if that means reaching out for help, reach out for help. If that means locking yourself away, isolating, and trying to build the biggest vision that you might not even think might be achievable, but at least try. Yeah. Like, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. So sort of running off that topic, when do you think you make your best work?
I think now I'm going to be making my best work, but I think only because I'm researched a lot into my next collection. I understand a lot more than I did when I was doing, Creating in Darkness, that collection in 2019, 2020, and then Social Archetypes 2020, 2021, I think. I've researched a lot. I've grown a lot in those last few years of not putting out as much work. So the next collection now is going to be very thought out in myself. I'm not going to tell you the theme of every painting. However, the way I name my works is very crucial in how to like unlock what I'm going towards, and then the rest is on you. But I think I created my best work once I have a better grasp on it myself. I can't just go pure, just abstract and go, because I'm not going to really figure anything out. You need to build that foundation, and then execute from that.
Thought it out.
Yeah. I've got like I'm not going to say this is what it's going to look like. Barely ever know what painting is going to look like by the time. Sure. But I know what it's about. I know what I need to say, and then how the aesthetic builds. If the theme changes, or I learn stuff whilst I'm painting, and so be it. It's just have a 50% foundation, and the 50% is freedom on the canvas to create something. That's from that trigger.
I mean, you sound like you have a lot of patience as well. Because you said that piece took you 9 months. That's a long time in my world.
Yeah. But like, I'm working on another 10 to 20 paintings at the same time as well. Okay. Some paintings might just click and like, I just need to do 2 more layers on this and I'm sorted, it's done. I like that. I can box this off. Like, I like to do a lot at the same time.
There'll be some short-term projects, some long-term projects. Almost at the same time.
Like sometimes I set out like I think it's going to be a long-term project, and they're like, I don't know whether I'll be able to finish this painting in a week or 2. Yeah. And I do. This might take me quite a few months to figure out. I still need to read this or look into this, and then it's done in like a week. I'm like, I've done it. Then some paintings are like, I need to do this, and I just can't get it to click. I just can't get it to click, and that's when I usually like bank it for like a month, come back to it, repaint it. No, not right, bam. And it's just a reoccurring process. Like this, it's not set in stone. Like I do this layer, do this color, do this coat, and I'm done. It's not like that. Some paintings work in a heartbeat, some really don't. So it's a hit and miss.
Yeah.
Like, of course, I'd like to speed up my painting and like the amount that I can put out there, but I'm not going to rush my process. So.
Well, that's important though. The fact that you have the patience to like wait for the greatness to manifest.
Greatness.
I'll call it that. No, I think patience is important because, like, in the social media world, for example, like I don't know if you want to have like I don't even know how the algorithm works anymore. No. But from like the impression I have is like, frequent posts. People are sort of encouraged to post a lot. And as an artist, it's like, time is a thing. It's like how quickly can you post? Because at some point it's like, what's the difference between art and content? And it's almost like a lot of the social media platforms are made for content, not art. And so like in order to get good at the algorithm, you need to produce and post a lot of content. But if a great piece takes you 9 months,
it is. Like, it is what it is.
I think it's good to stick to that because there's a lot of pull to like just do things quickly, just put them out. But if something's going to take a while, like, it takes a long time to build a house or like anything good. Sometimes maybe it needs that time. So that's cool that you follow that.
And like I only want to go full hog DaHexd marketing and XYZ once I have the work that I can stand by and be like, this is what I'm doing right now. And I don't want to start like just doing a marketing campaign or content creation for my Instagram when it doesn't have the heart of it. Like once I have like a backlog of like 30 paintings from the next collection, then you'll see them on Instagram. It will just be constant, because that's what you need to do. Like, it is good to get out there. However, you do get to a stage as an artist when paintings hit a certain price, you're not really going to be finding your millionaires that want to take you to the next private point on Instagram. That's when you have to start networking into a different person to person, into the London markets, into Miami markets, New York markets. You've been talking to agents, so it does change slightly. So it's cool having a blue tick on your Instagram or like 50,000 followers, but
it's not actually
if you're not selling work for so much money, or you're not putting the work out you want to put out, you're just painting for a market, then like I'll wait.
You've sold your soul.
Sold your soul, and I just don't want to do that. Like, it's not for me. Like I say, patience. So I think I might have patience now.
Sort of running off. I was going to ask this question later, but since you mentioned like the art markets, what has been your experience? Because I know you're into NFTs as well, have been involved in NFTs. What have you like? What's been your experience of the traditional art world versus the NFT world?
I feel like the NFT world's a lot more accepting. A lot more like just communal and happy. People are like, this is a new buzz. So that was a really, really nice thing to see. But I only really got into the art market during COVID, so I've not had the full run of like shows and yet. And like I've not had the full experience of the art market. That will probably come, whether I go through galleries or whether I just go solo and push sales my own way. But the art market's the art market. Everyone has their quarrels. There's good things, there's bad things about it. There's whether galleries are working for you or whether it's working to flip money. That's the thing. NFTs, it's fraud going through NFTs. However, there's some great communities in NFTs. So there's always going to be good things and bad things about both industry. It just depends on where you want to sit yourself. I'm not a big PFP guy for NFTs, so I'm not going to get involved in all like the scam rug pulls or anything like that. For like some good digital art, I look into the artist, make a conversation, and usually that's the same with art as well. If I ever want to collect anything or connect with an artist, just drop them a message. If they respond, they respond. If they don't, they don't. Like you shoot your shot and you take it from there. Okay, cool.
Nice. you mentioned some collections. So what have you got coming up? I know you told me something before. But yeah, what projects are you working on right now, and what do you have coming up that you could share?
Yeah. So currently, I'm building my next collection. Yeah. So it's going to be called Omni Trium Perfectum. So that's like Latin for everything in three is perfect, nice. Or everything in threes is correct in some ways. Because it's my third collection, it's going to be kind of coming full circle. The three is used in so many things in life. There's the past, present, future. There's the start, middle, end. That's how stories are told. It's how the world works, really, in sets of three. But three signals a completion, but doesn't signal an end. So that's why I'm going to be calling it Omni Trium Perfectum. So that's going to be my biggest collection to date. Bigger artworks. Most of the artworks are going to be built in sets of three. So they'll tell a story with one title, big pieces. So that's what I'm working on completing now. About 50% finished. And that's going to be trickled out towards the end of this year and next year. And then I'm also working on some digital projects as well, using like neuroimagery. But that will be coming towards the end of next year, the end of this year. I have everything in place to execute it. I'm just not happy with the work yet. I only want to go full hog until I have my work where I want it to go, so I can scale it quite quickly. But I'm just going to take my time until I'm content with the project, get a few other people involved just to make sure it's all running smoothly, and then that will be the big full circle. That will connect the digital, the physical, the neuroimagery and the psychoanalytical, the viewer, the observer. It will connect everything together quite wholesomely. So it's just figuring out timings, figuring out work. But that's where I'm at currently. And hopefully 2023 to 2024 is going to be a good year for the work that I put out. I said to you before off camera, I'm feeling pretty good in myself, the best I've felt in ages. So it's definitely in a good headspace to be able to execute the biggest collection so far of my life.
Yeah. Neuroimagery.
Yes.
How did you get it?
So this kind of goes back to things that I'm really obsessed with, of what does make people tick. There's always the nature-nurture debate. There's also you have your internal voice, and then what is actually going on inside of your brain. So that's what's really triggered this project. If you can create the connection between the two in a visual way, with meaningful artwork and a visual behind it, but then also showcase that with actual neuroimagery of your brain, what's actually happening behind the scenes. It might just make people click onto a bit more, like, I do actually have a brain. Things are actually happening. I'm actually a body. Like, what is actually going on? I've got veins and a heart. Like, not to take it too I think that it might just start making people like connecting, like, I'm actually a physical being
with their own power.
Yeah, like this is quite mad what's going on. And then you have your thoughts as well, with thinking beings. So I think that's the next stage. That's how DaHexd is going to develop over the next five years, I'll say. I think everything should be falling in place and being showcased the way I want it to be showcased. But yeah, it's I've got a good team of people currently working on the project with me, who are studying like their doctorates in neuroimagery and neuroscience. So it's good to have a team of people that also are really invested in what they do and care about what they do as well.
That's really cool vision for the project, though, or like ethos behind it. Because even like at the times that we feel stagnant, there is still loads of stuff happening inside. And like if you could just see your own processes, you wouldn't feel stagnant. Like your blood is being circulated, your brain is doing loads of electrical stuff, heart's beating by itself, you're breathing by yourself. Like your body's doing all sorts of stuff without you actually like feeling like you're doing it. But I think it is it's the fact that it is all automatic maybe makes people think that they're not doing anything. But it'd be really cool to like for people to see actually inside and like what is all the stuff that's going on. I definitely think that's like that can bring more a sense of power and agency to people.
Yeah.
No, I really like that idea.
Just hopefully just switches people on a bit so things are happening. Yeah. And I think that's crucial to move forward. People become self-aware and trying to become the best person for themselves and everyone around them, really.
Big facts. DaHexd Studio, I see you repping. Tell us about that. What's the vision for it? What are you trying to achieve with it?
So DaHexd Studio. So when I was in college, I started studying fashion, and I've always wanted to have a clothing line. I think clothing is, well, everyone wears it. Everyone's trying to project an image when they're wearing a certain hoodie or trying to fit into a certain subculture of fashion. And that's a lot more universal. You walk down the street, someone could be wearing flare jeans because they like the 70s or whenever they were about, or punk rockers. It's all subcultures, and people are very aware to identify with those subcultures and then express themselves through the clothing. Like, you might even have the roadman who just want to look like their drill artist. That is still an expression because they're wearing the zipped up tech fleeces and stuff. So I think that and art, people are a bit more scared of art because they might be a bit more exposed to say, I like this piece of art. But with clothing, people are very happy to expose it. So you can make the collaboration between the two, the artwork, the clothing. People are willing to express an art piece as a sub part of their actual clothing and their visual output that they're putting. I think that's, again, another just gateway into the art market of like what overall DaHexd is trying to achieve, and then also what they'd like to look like and the aesthetic behind it and the growth behind it. And that's why I want DaHexd Studio to run alongside DaHexd as its own something. Some of these people are, again, a gateway into the art market.
Nice. Yeah. I like the fit too. Looks quite complicated. Nice. Gotta give myself one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And do you see, like, for the aesthetic behind DaHexd Studio, how do you determine the aesthetic versus your art? Because it's quite minimalistic, but your art isn't. Where do you see that?
So the logo face on the back is something that I drew when I was like 14. It's one of the first logos that I kind of drew together. And I wanted to minimalize my work slightly, just because putting such an aggressive image onto a t-shirt isn't going to have that same connection as actually seeing the artwork in the flesh. So I do want there to be like a differentiation between the two. So that's why I needed a logo that still holding true to DaHexd. Like the clothing is still very early days, like where I'm going to take things, the connections I'm going to take. Like, I'm still only in my first collection. But yeah, it's more just about branding sometimes. So doing podcasts like this and also exploring my artwork further and putting my ethos behind that, why I create what I create. This face logo can embody that, and then that can grow further and further. So I thought I'd just start from the beginning with the logo. This is 14-year-old David. I'm still 25-year-old David now, but I'm still trying to go on a mission with what people tick.
Nice. Sticking to the foundations. A bit of a segue, but AI.
Yes.
I know you've talked about that too, and you're interested in it. Where do you stand on AI art? It is causing disruption to the creative industries. Do you see it as a good thing? And how do you view AI and AI art?
From an artwork perspective, as an end product, if you're using it to create an end product, no, like it's not art. However, I've used it, the DALL-E before, so it's if I put like a work in progress painting in, and it can generate 30 images and refresh another 30 images, it's just increasing the stimulus that I'm getting, and so it's going to just keep my brain ticking, keep my brain functioning. If I'm getting a bit lost in a painting, it can be used as a tool to increase the stimulus. So it could go from one figure, it can then develop into 2 figures, and it can develop a different colour palette, and then go into 3 figures. And if I'm trying to explore myself, a thought that you could have is, well, there's 3 versions of myself. There's me in the past, me in the present, me in the future. And then you're like, okay, I wouldn't have made that connection if this AI didn't make that in 30 seconds. that can go off into its own direction. That can be its own piece. Then it could just be a really, really minuscule, isolated figure. So it's just increasing the stimulus and like color palettes. Color is very important in art, whether it's a monochrome or contrasting colors, or using just one bright color to bring the piece together. AI is making those connections a lot quicker than I can. Clean a paintbrush, put it onto the canvas, do that, wash over it, didn't work. So it's not only helping an aesthetic build, but it's mainly helping me make the connections in life. What I'm trying to achieve is just making those thoughts and those eureka moments, so to speak, like happen a lot quicker, and it's just putting fuel to the fire by increasing the stimulus. So I think if it's being used as a tool by artists, then more power to you. Fantastic. Like, the more stimulus, the more thought-provoking, the more in-depth that you're being, it's only going to be better for yourself and everyone else. If you're using it as just an end product, like, this is a piece of artwork, it's stout, it's so good, like, where are you in the process? And when people invest in art, they're not investing usually in a piece of canvas. They're investing in the artist and the journey they've gone and their ethos behind their work. So I think that's where I stand on it. It's a tool, not an end product.
Yeah, that's a great review. I agree. I mean, it is a tool because it's something that's come and that we can't fight against. That's for sure. It's like the internet.
Yeah.
Like, and when the internet came, like, there was people that were against it, but there's no way you can stop it.
Yeah.
Like, and I think the same. It's like the cat is out of the bag now. The AI is here, so like it's going to be used. The question is how do you use it, and how do you keep your authenticity and dignity while using it. No, that's a good way of that you said, like, for getting more idea or seeing versions or alternatives or just different options of something that you have created. Not even to like just leave it there, but to just get more ideas. Yeah, I think that's a good way of using the tool.
Yeah, 100%. But like, even when cameras came through, everyone's like, traditional art's going to die.
Right.
And look at us now. Like, artwork is still the artist behind it is still the core part of the art. Yeah. So even with AI coming in, it's going to take over a few different industries, probably. Like, it's
for sure.
Like, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. However, I think as artists, we are the creatives behind the work. We are the ones that are going to be the catalysts and also the sparks for the AI to grow and blossom. And so it's going to take creative minds to be able to get to grips with it and actually use it for good. And I think it's an exciting thing. Scary in some parts, but you just kind of got to grab it by two hands and take control of it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, a couple of questions I think we should ask first. What advice would you have for people that just want to start creating, or let's say they've just started, or they want to get into creating work, or let's say they're young, they're 14, 15. What words would you have for someone in that stage?
Probably just pick up a pencil.
Yeah.
Like, just the first initial picking up a piece of paper and a pencil, write a list of what you want to do. If you don't know what you want to do, start just writing words and then draw them. Just that initial picking up a pencil is the hardest part. Actually starting the process is the hardest part. Forget about, how I'm going to market this piece of work, how do you think I'm going to sell it, what's it going to like on Instagram. Forget all of that. Literally just sit down by yourself, breathe and go. That's all that needs to be done, because as soon as you made that first line, you're like, well, I'm here now, and your brain can just clock on. I don't think new artists should be worrying about marketing, they shouldn't be worried about selling, they should just be worried about why they create artwork. It's taken me, I'd say probably about four and a bit years now to be like, I can say fundamentally this is why I create artwork, it's because it's what makes people tick. I've always been obsessed with it, but being able to say it concisely is something that I've only kind of come to grips with and be like, that's what I need to be leading with, this is why I do create my work. I think artists, they just need to pick up a pencil, write down why do they want to actually just create something, or whether they turn on the laptop, turn on Photoshop, just get a picture out there, merge two together. Just find your why you want to do it. Just take it from there. If you want to create commercial artwork where it's just going to be copied and pasted, or just random like commercial stuff, then go do that and be happy with it. I'm not going to tell everyone that they can't create work unless they have a why, but I think meaningful artwork is definitely the way forward, and commercial is just, it's there for people to enjoy as an aesthetic.
I guess they both have their own place. Exactly. That makes sense, yeah. Well, yeah, just start.
Just start. Well. Like, I know it's harder said than done. Like, just a pencil, piece of paper, write down a few words of what you want to create. You want to create the best brand in the world, just write down, like, why. What's your brand going to do? Mm-hmm. Or you want to create the best logo, just draw 5 logos that you like and then merge them together. It's just you see what you can do.
Starting does feel like the hardest part sometimes. I think we don't even realize, but it is.
100%. Like, even the thought of just like picking up a paintbrush and and then I do it, and then 6 hours later, I've not looked at my phone. Yeah, I've not looked at my phone, not drank anything, not eaten anything, and I'm stood around by like 6 paintings. Like, I have never been so happy. I've just done that. So it's even for me now, just like picking up that paintbrush sometimes, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get paint everywhere. I can't be bothered, and then eventually I do it, and I'm like, I don't know why I debated myself for 20 minutes.
No, it's a great perspective, just sharing that. Yeah, that happens a lot.
100%. Like, yeah.
This is a question I asked all of my guests. Well, what is your definition of success? At what point do you think you will say, you know what, I've reached somewhere pretty good?
It's a good question. I think once I have this next collection finished, because I believe in it so thoroughly, and I'm so content with the direction it's going and the meanings behind a lot of the works, I think once that's created, whether I sell out for £1 million each or none of them sell, I think I'll be like, I've succeeded something. I think I'm going to feel success, like I did when I completed Social Archetypes. I felt in some form I've conquered something here. When I think that's kind of the most overwhelming kind of like feeling, like, right, this is not done, and I'm hoping I get that when I finish this next collection. But I think you can't start thinking about, if I sell a piece of work at Sotheby's for 500 grand, like, yeah, but most of the art market is a bit, most of it's not 100% legit, or it's insider, or it's a bit. So how are you going to judge that as success when it's in 3 rich guys' hands? They're just playing. Yeah, they're just playing puppets with artworks and brand names, well, artist names. I think you can only feel success once you've actually achieved something personally and internally, rather than the external factors of, I've sold for this man.
Sure. And it sounds like a continual process for you too. Like you said, you felt success when you finished your last project, but you're hoping you feel it again when you create the next one. And the thing is, with even the example that you gave is like, someone says they sell for 500 grand or whatever, and it's a little success. The thing is that I just, not that I've sold for that much, but I feel like even after that there'll be a feeling of, now what?
Yeah.
So I think it's good to always view it as a continual thing. Success, that not that like once you reach it, that's it. Yeah. You're gonna throw the towel in, because like you're gonna reach it, but then there will be a feeling of, okay, now what? Like you're at the top of a mountain, now you gotta go somewhere.
Yeah.
You can't just like stay there.
Yeah, like I've always got ideas for like next projects moving forward, like how everything's going to tie in with other projects. Like, but I think once you have gone to some form of mental war with yourself and got over that hurdle, that's the most success you're ever going to feel. And some days where you can look yourself in the mirror and be like, these last 3 months have been terrible, but I've done it, I'm here. Let's just put one foot in front of the other. That's success. 100% that's success. Like, having a lot of money would be great because it just gives some form of stability. But I think if you can look yourself in the mirror and look yourself in the eyes, I think that's the fundamentals for success, to be honest.
I respect that so much. To like say, yeah, the goal of knowing yourself, conquering yourself. Those are big goals, and like the honorable goals in my opinion. And like those are the things that like once you make progress on them, you really feel it, and like your internal landscape changes. If you conquer a certain part of yourself, let's say whatever it is, there's certain emotions or whatever. If you can process it, for me, creating is a great way of processing things like that too. And it's like if I put a lot of my emotions into one piece, and then I have this piece and it's created, and now all the energy that was just like chaotic in me, now it's like been put somewhere, and it's like fairly stable now.
Yeah.
It does feel like a level up in some way. And yeah, no, I respect that you have that ethos. So yeah. Yeah. So, are there anything else you would want people to know? Any conclusive remarks? Remind people, anything like that?
Yeah. All I can really say is I feel like people should care a lot more about who they are and what they're putting out there to other people. I think the best thing anyone could ever do for themselves is just look themselves in the mirror when it's all silent, all said and done, just silent, and just be there like, am I happy with who I am? If the answer is yes, completed life. What steps did you take? Help other people achieve theirs, because that's going to be heartwarming for yourself, being able to help other people. If the answer is no, look at a plan. If it's external factors, do something about it. If it's internal factors, then talk to yourself and be like, how am I going to get out of this? What steps do I need to put in place to move forwards? And I think that's just going to be better for everyone if they care about who they are. And whether they're creating artwork or you're an engineer or working behind a bar or you're doing whatever, as long as you're trying to be the best person that you can at every stage, it's just going to be so much better for everyone. Like I really believe that.
Amen. Man, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been great to get your views and just get into your mind a bit more. And I'm sure people will find this very useful.
No, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, man. All the best with your projects and everything that are coming up.
You too, brother.
Find David on DaHexd and DaHexd Studio on Instagram, Twitter, DaHexd.com?
.co.uk.
DaHexd.co.uk. And yeah, stay up to date on everything. Thanks, everyone.